ish show about cars and stuff. This intro is an intro of all things. I'm rambling. With me, as always, or it's becoming always again, shockingly, Greg.
Hi, 'tis
Ooh.
me. I exist again.
How are you doing, buddy? We are still working on getting Greg some better audio equipment for our new setup. So, Echo Chamber Greg will return.
Yes, apologies there. But good news, we have the mic, and I have basically what Chad's headset is that can plug into this little thing right here. It's called a headphone jack. For those
Thank
of
God
you
for
that are Gen
clarification.
Z and don't know what the hell that is. So basically, I'll have Chad's setup, which he sounds very clear on always. So next week, hopefully, we will have a nice, solid mic slash headphone option for me, and it will be a lot better. So apologies once again, and hopefully for the last time, for the Echo Chamber Garage.
Welcome to Echo Chamber Garage.
In other words, to answer your question, I'm good. I'm solid. I am biblically tired, though, as family and other obligations have run me ragged the last 1 to 2 weeks. But what else is new with 2 young kids? Other than that, feeling good, feeling frisky, and I'm here to chat some cars, of which we have topics that will rustle all of the Chad Jimmies tonight, which is going to make for some epic rants, and I'm very excited for them.
Yes to the rants, but the topics are good from this. If you obviously you've read the title and thumbnail, so you obviously have an idea of what one of the topics we're talking about. But the institutions and such irritate me. But
Sure.
But before we kind of dive into that, being that this is our last show of May, and as our eagle-eyed viewers will undoubtedly be able to notice, there is a schedule next to me. We are prepared for next month. Shocking, I know. But we have a jam-packed month of June, and there are some changes to our usual schedule. That is, excuse me. There. Don't let the Buffalo School Department see me burp on a podcast. They might yell at me. And consider me foul and my opinion invalid. If you know, you know. But we are uncharacteristically prepared going into the month of June. So next week, we'll be back Wednesday as per usual, assuming, Greg is...
Assuming me.
Yes. Why is... Hold on. Huh, weird. And then just a few days after that, on Monday the 9th, our good friend of the show, Elliot Alvis, will be here with us. Doug, welcome, my dude. On Wednesday the 18th, we will have again returning friend of the show, Keith from Wheels and Whiskey on. The 25th, Greg is on vacation. So we're planning on having a show then. I am working...
A planned absence instead of just a random work blows absence.
We're not really sure how that show is going to take part. We haven't technically approved Greg's PTO request yet, so...
Well, then you can just fire me at that point.
No, I'm making you go live from the beach, which I think would be you just sitting on the beach with your phone just like rigged up, talking to it, and as walker by, and then we just have another camera. Walker by is just looking at you like you're insane.
I could bring a tripod for my phone and just set the phone up with a battery attached to it, and the battery just duct taped to the tripod so that it just never dies. And I could throw the headphones in and just be like, "What's up? This is Beach Greg. Let's hang 10, see some waves, bro." It would be an epic beach stream.
Thank you to Doug for the 100 stars to, and I quote, fully fund Greg's PTO. I might have to issue. I might need to issue a refund. We don't pay Greg that much.
We're gonna have to. We're gonna have to put at least 14 more zeros on the end of that one.
You high maintenance son of a bee.
But thank you, Doug, as always. Appreciate the
Greg, you ungrateful bastard.
the funny comment as well as the stars.
So that week we will be seeing what's what. Again, working on that, and then Monday, June the 30th. This is one where I'm have 99.9% of the details ironed out. Just working on a couple of different things at this point. But the short version is we have a relatively large guest in terms strictly of social following and presence. This is our biggest guest we have ever had. They are a car guy, a relatively new car guy. They are also not known for cars. If you know me and some of my other interests, that might give a hint to where this guy comes from. He's also pretty damn technically savvy. And short version of it is he might be venturing into the app realm for new car purchasing. And I may or may not have promised all of our delightfully wonderful regulars as, I don't want to say beta testers, but offers of advice and wisdom to help him sort of on his path. Probably we'll be making an announcement on this, if not next week, the week after. But it's pretty freaking huge. You'll see stuff on the main page teasing this and what have you. But that's June. Pretty damn excited for it. We should theoretically only have 1 week sans Greg. However, as God is my witness, I'm going to do everything in my power to make sure we get a beach cam of Greg, preferably in some form of banana hammock for the female viewers that just demand it weekly.
That don't exist.
At any rate.
Yeah, I'll just be in the Borat mankini over the shoulder. The giant green man sling.
It's just a blurred image and like a voice modulator of Greg.
I mean, okay. I'm okay with that.
So like I said, we are actually prepared this time. I will be posting that in the Shift Squad, along with a little bit of that teaser video that all of you guys saw, coming very, very soon.
Awesome sauce.
Yes. I turned Greg up as high as he could possibly go, Doug, so hopefully that has fixed his low volume. If not, sorry, his voice is kind of grating anyway, so...
Loud noises!
Thank you. The reverb did not hurt my ears at all, you...
I apologize for nothing. I'll say we hop right into topics, because we got some roastable topics tonight.
Roastable.
Is
that like an Uncrustable that you throw on the grill?
Oh, that's actually a really good idea. Have you ever had the grilled peanut butter and jelly, by the way?
I've had like literally grilled cheese, but not
So it's like, I mean, it's just grilled toast, obviously, but it's peanut butter and jelly. It's pretty awesome. It made me wish that my parents knew to do that as a child when I had all the peanut butter and jelly in the world. And I'm like, man, wish adults made me this when I was a kid because this is really freaking delicious. I highly recommend it. So first order of business, and you actually may know more about this than I do because you sent me this article. This is not a political show. I'm merely reading the subject line, and then we can talk about this. But there's big to-do in the government about like emission standards, them being rolled back, things like that. But the headline of this is Senate Republicans just axed California's EV mandate. Are all of CARB's emissions rules next? With subhead of dozens of states follow CARB's stringent regulations. But new moves by the Senate threaten California's emissions setting independence. And for those that don't know, California has basically been able to set their own emission standards for many years. And a bunch of states, I believe it's 11. I need to actually
17.
17, thank you. They follow those exact standards, which are the CARB standards. And now the other states that don't do that they follow the federal regulations for that, with some states having slightly different things. I believe Massachusetts has its own set as well, but it's basically following a lot of the federal government's mandates and things like that. So what they're trying to do is essentially roll back CARB and make everything under one unilateral blanket. Go.
So, just to kind of dive into CARB regulations. Now, if you've ever bought performance parts, most of the time, at the very end of the description of the part will sit here and say this is 49 state legal, or it's not CARB compliant, or for off-road use. They don't mean that you're going to go Bajaing in your, Corvette. I mean, you might, but what they mean is basically for use not on public roads. It is their way of getting around anybody buying it in the state of California or any of the other states following those particular regulations. A way around it. But look, we're a car show, so we are going to obviously be biased towards the, whatever you want to call it, car-centric mindset, the enthusiast mindset. But in my estimation, the CARB regulations have been pretty draconian, in the sense that they're just way over the top. The penalties for being in slight violation of some of these regulations, i.e., say you have a turbocharged car and you want to put it, like literally the only mod Greg has done to his Volvo is a downpipe and a tune on his car. That would probably result in 10 years prison time in the state of California. I'm joking on that last part, but
you're not like that far off. Like there's heavy fines, there's heavy regulations, and there's one of the biggest things that I remember, not necessarily emissions related, but like just how crazy California can be in certain things is the Hyundai Elantra N. Cops were pulling over people with stock exhausts and saying, this is modified, you got to take it back to the dealership, you can't do this. It's just like, well, Hyundai sold this in California as a legal vehicle. So, but that's right. The level that we're working with, just so we all know. It's not just like government regulations. It goes all the way down to the consumer.
Right. And I mean, and here's the thing, right? You can't, and like, there's so much more to it. The fact that the inspection process is insane, and the cost of which is passed on to the consumer, right? Mm-hmm. Like, I forget, but I think it was no more than like $40 to get my car inspected when it was working and not eating itself. Like, it's insane. Like, I've recently became a part of a group and talking with this guy, and he has a 718 Boxster that he wants to get a little more power out of. And as you know, those things are a 4-cylinder turbocharged engine. And it's like, dude, just throw a downpipe and a tune and you're going to gain that's like the best bang for buck. Can't do it. And then I started thinking, it's like, right, but like, so like the downpipe I had for my C30 from Elevate. I'm not here to talk about Elevate, just using the part as an example.
Yeah.
Had a massive catalytic converter on it, designed for like a BMW 330 diesel or some shit, right? But it was high flow, but it also was, I forget the cell count in it, but it was also a pretty high cell count catalytic converter. So it had the benefits of flow with that, you couldn't do that in California. It's like, nope, it's an aftermarket part. No, so there's just so much like little ticky tack nonsensical things that people have to go through to, for car enthusiasts and stuff. And look, I get it. At the end of the day, car enthusiasm, modifying cars, not all that important in the grand scheme of life, right? Like, I get it. But on the flip side, it's not necessary, because 99% of this stuff takes into, again, it's a case of the people who make the rules having absolutely no clue whatsoever of the subject matter. Stop me if you've heard this before. So instead of doing the right thing and taking it case by people who actually are knowledgeable, maybe say, I don't know, instead of having a state institution do these inspections, have garages go through a certification process, get a certification. So guess what you're doing? You're supporting the local economy, and you have people who know what they're doing, who A, are less likely to miss things, and B, more likely to sit here and say, look, in the spirit of the law, this is fine.
Right.
And so like, look, I'm not going to sit here and say that we should all be allowed to sit here and have cars that every time you drive past, a nice little flower garden, all the flowers die, right? Like, I'm not saying I want like just belching all this stuff in there, but like
rolling copious coal,
right? Like it's just, so it's like, again, it's just a dump, and it just reeks to me of a cash grab but they're using saving the environment as a means to effectively tax you in addition for in a way, it's a way of legally taxing you illegally, right? Like, they can't sit here and add a tax to cars, right? But they can do it through this stupid inspection process, the fining, the impounding, all this other sort of stuff. Doug with another 100 stars. These are our tribute for somewhat defending the government. It was not my intention. I support breaking all of these laws. To roll back.
And for legal reasons, that was a joke.
And then real quick, I'll just wrap this all up. That rolls me into the EV mandate, which was another piece of just moronic, stupid, dumb fuckery that we've talked about at length on this show, about how dumb it is to mandate all electric vehicle sales in such a short period of time, when the EV as a reliable consumer product, I mean, it hasn't been that long. It has not been that long that people can legitimately go into a dealership or go online and shop for vehicles where an electric car, a fully electric car, is an option when compared to more conventional internal combustion cars. It's not a new technology, but it's by no means a established technology. God damn it, Greg. Greg is clicking buttons and ruining the show.
I'm not clicking anything. I haven't touched the damn thing. What happened?
You disappeared.
I'm here. So, like, are we still live? Are we good?
Yeah, you just disappeared. I guess we're live. No, but like,
nice.
In any rate, there are levels to certain stuff. There are levels to which a good idea becomes a stupid idea, right? Is the idea of getting something we've discussed ad nauseum, carbon neutral. It's not the goal is not to be purely electric. The goal is not to be purely hydrogen fuel cell. The goal is not to be purely one thing or another. The goal is to be carbon neutral, to emit less greenhouse gases, to do less damage to said environment, right? So whether that's EVs, synthetic fuels, hybrids, whatever, that's the goal. And to put all the eggs in the electric car basket is drastically undercited. is drastically just taking the easy way route, getting buzzwords for votes, right? Because people don't really know what synthetic fuel is. They know hydrogen fuel cell exists, but people still think hydrogen and Hindenburg, even though it's over 100 years ago. So they take the easy way out to say, hey, I'm protecting the environment. Drive EVs by 2035. We're saving the world. I'm sorry, what is China doing again? They're just literally throwing coal dust into the atmosphere and lighting it on fire. Buy an electric car.
Right.
Where,
that's sort of
where
like
a lot of the lithium is coming via China.
Yeah, that's sort of the point that I was going to make. And there's like a lot of like, bloviation about, like lithium mines and, that's really horrible for the environment. It's like, you know what's bad for the environment? Basically everything we do. I mean,
cows are bad for the environment.
Cow farts. Yeah, exactly. Cow farts are bad for the environment. Running your car is bad for the environment. Leaving your lights on is bad for the environment. Volcanoes erupting, super bad for the environment. Like, there's shit that like the Earth just does naturally that's bad for the environment.
Whoa.
So this whole thing about like an EV mandate, and again, I'm very pro EV if the situation calls for it. Again,
if you want one, buy one.
Yes,
I'm not going to sit here and say
100%.
you're an idiot, don't do it. What I am going to say is like the consumer should have the option, not be forced upon it. Because I know this is a big step and might be a bit of a leap, but in the dictator's sort of, dictator's handbook, there are a few steps. There's limit freedom of speech and limit mobility of the general populace.
Yeah.
East Berlin.
100%. Correct. But like that was going to be my whole point. It was like, we have a hyper niched society, right? And people are spoiled for choice. Don't like these channels? Cool. Get a different package. You can do whatever streaming you want these days. You don't even have to have cable. Have internet. Watch YouTube all day. There's unending choices for things. TV is just one example because it's an easy example to make. Cars are the same way. Everyone says, the death of the internal combustion engine is nigh. It's like, well, there's still internal combustion engines all over the place. You can buy an EV. Hydrogen power is really, is really making headway. Synthetic fuels, like you said. So like, I am in that same boat. Like, an EV mandate was never going to save the environment, and they know that. That's the thing. And that's the problem. Like, give people the choice, and however many millions of people are now, getting rid of carbon emissions in the sense of exhaust fumes. Great, that's cool, and that's good. And as those cars live on, all of that will get out of the atmosphere eventually. That's great. There is zero consensus evidence to say that going all EV will solve the environment's problems. What was a unanimous consensus, something that I have called out many times when talking about this topic, is something about, I forget what the mandate or act was called now, but the ozone layer, when they got rid of all harmful aerosols, basically all at once, and lo and behold, magically, the ozone layer will be essentially healed by 2065, 2070. Cool. Damn. You know what happened? Consensus evidence saying that would work. And look what happened. It's actually working. You can see it in act, literally. It's on NASA's website. You can go look it up. This is a real thing. Full EV adoption for every single car on the planet. Zero consensus evidence saying that would work. So why were we ever mandating that in the first place? Like, it doesn't make any sense. Like, the whole like do your own research, stuff like didn't apparently apply to basically who was trying to mandate that in the first place.
It's almost like it's a bunch of political bullshit.
Right. Well, that's the other thing. But it's also political bullshit in the exact opposite direction too. It's like,
I'm not saying one side or the other. I'm
no, I
simply
know,
saying
me
that's
neither. I'm also just saying, like, there needs to be a middle ground where we can agree on, and that's like the biggest problem is there isn't. But the thing that everyone seems to be missing is these things can coexist and still help the environment. Full stop.
again, for me, this becomes a very simple. There's a very, very simple solution. If you have a regulatory commission, if you have something like an EPA, like an ATF, like all these organizations that are supposed to only enforce laws ratified by Congress, right? Like going through the actual this executive, judicial. What am I thinking? Like, what's the third branch?
Executive. Oh God, my brain. I don't.
But like, basically, laws can
Executive,
be legislation.
legislative, and judicial.
They are the ones making the laws. These agencies are the ones supposed to enforce the laws. Both sides of it. If we have a committee in Congress for, say, vehicle emissions or vehicle, we'll just call it vehicle laws, right? Here's a hot idea. Instead of just appointing people who, oh, this guy has this guy's district has a Subaru plant. This guy from Ohio has a Honda plant. This guy from Detroit has a Chevy. And instead of appointing them, who are by definition a conflict of interest, but instead of just blindly assigning people to these roles, maybe you have someone who has a rough idea, who then is able to bring in experts to educate on what these things are, what the processes are, what the technologies are, all of these sorts of things, and educate them to the point where they say, hey, this is a dumb idea. This is this, and this. Here are the facts. Here's how you explain it to the uninitiated, i.e., your constituents. And then you go forth with that. And then on the flip side, the people actually enforcing these laws. Like, I'm sorry, but if you're an EPA person and your job is to enforce EPA regulations on auto manufacturers, aftermarket companies, all of this sort of stuff, I'm sorry, but you have to have some level of engineering, whether it be from a, computer science, because obviously there's a lot of electronics and computerization of these modern cars, whether it be engineering from a standpoint of you understand the basic ideas of how engines and cars and brakes and all this other stuff sorts of works. There has to be a background in it, right? It's like the concept of it'd be as absurd if you put Greg and I in charge of, I don't know, enforcing, landscaping. I don't know the first thing about landscaping. I know there's mulch. I know you trim stuff. That's it. Like, I don't know the first thing. We're not experts. We shouldn't be in charge. We can comment. It's a country. I will always fight for someone's right to say something. I may disagree with it, or it may be completely effed up, but that's part and parcel of living in this country. But, just having educated individuals come together as a group to make and enforce would go a long way to just, you would end up, I say this for all things, you would end up with a lot less of this basically ping-ponging, right? Every single 4 years or every single time the party powers shift, right? Don't know why that's not showing up. Right? Because one party has their special interests that they're trying to take care of, has nothing really to do with the benefit of the individual as opposed to just keeping whatever lobbyist and all this other sort of stuff happy. The other one has the other side of the equation, and it just goes back and forth and back and forth. Because guess what? Let's just say, hypothetically speaking, the left takes control in 4 years. You know what's going to be back on the freaking table? EV, all of these, like, cracking down. And then guess what? In 4 years, they lose power and it's going to swing back. That is arguably the definition of insanity, because we are moving nowhere, as opposed to, let's just say someone else takes power and they say, oh, this law, this way of enforcing this, why this is illegal and this isn't, was done by someone who actually is an expert in the subject matter. Right?
Right.
So, like, at whatever level, people who actually understand the subject matter is more important than just. And to Michael's point over on YouTube, it's not about that. It's not about state versus national or what have you. It's about individuals making laws who actually have a freaking clue of what they're doing. And look, I may not agree with everything that, say, California has done and the trickle-down effect it's had on these other 17 states that follow similar guidelines and everything like that. But like we've said, it's never been about that. It's been about the idiocy of the actual what they're doing. You know, the EV mandate, number one. Like, take it. That was one of the all-time dumbest things on the planet, because it skull fucked auto manufacturers. Because whether they agreed with it or not, or felt it was going to change or wasn't going to change or what have you, they had to react, because if they didn't, come 2035, they would be screwed if this continued.
Right.
And it hurt a lot of manufacturers. Some were able to weather the storm. Some are in big, big trouble. So.
Yeah, I think that's pretty spot on. Like, mandate this thing, and then the next the next administration says, no, we were just joking. Let's do it this way. And then auto manufacturers is like, oh, okay, we'll go this way, you know. And then the next administration is like, well, actually, we are going to do that. And then what needs to happen?
Nobody can run a business under that. Nope, you can't run a business under that.
And it's not just auto manufacturers either. Like, no one, period. If every 4 years there's new rules and regulations, there needs to be like a unifying body that's basically just like, we have people from both sides that are actual, like you were saying, engineers and or just neutral people, whatever, that are just like, we're engineers, we know how this thing runs. This is the governing body. It has nothing to do with Congress, the presidency, the judicial branch, whatever, because every one of those branches doesn't know jack shit about cars or the automotive industry at all, full stop. And I know that there are governing bodies in place that do certain things, but like, if you really want to like torpedo the auto industry, this is what's going to do it, quite honestly. You know, the whole too big to fail thing is about to happen again.
Right. I mean, let's just say hypothetically you own a woodworking shop, right? And you make chairs, you make tables, you make stuff out of wood. And every 4 years, the wood you're allowed to use changes. They don't sit here and say, well, you know, they're not going to sit here and help you. Like, let's just say hypothetically, you use a type of wood that's perfect for everything and it's relatively inexpensive. They ban that, and now your costs go up by 30%. And then the next 4 years, it's off the table. And then the next, it's just, I feel like we should kind of move on, just because, but like,
yeah,
the bottom line is, I honestly think a lot of this stuff, and this goes back to kind of like the states' rights comment, I think there should be some things that the states are allowed to control, and I think other things should just be nationalized because they make the most sense. Let's just say, hypothetically speaking, again, you're a car manufacturer, and the overwhelming majority of the country has X regulation. Or let's say, F it. Let's say there's like a collection of 10 different groups. Each 10 different groups of states has 10 different emissions regulations. And some will choke the performance of your car, or some will make it so you have to do something different with, say, the tuning or the actual physical hardware or anything like that, right? As opposed to having one rule book to read from to sell your car in all 50 states legally. Cough, cough, the Elantra N.
Right.
Right? So, like,
100%.
on stuff like that, because of just the fact that the car is not a local state product, it is a national product with dozens of countries involved, if not more than that. You have to have one rule book so that these companies know what to do. And again, on the flip
100%.
side, we are car enthusiasts. So anything that helps the car enthusiast, I'm going to be on board with.
Yeah, agree. I'm totally on board with that. I'm on board with if it's going to help the car enthusiasts, but also it's just fucking fair to people. And we not only is it going to like screw automakers, but it's also fair to the consumer because at the end of the day, we're the ones shoveling tens of thousands of dollars into pockets that don't need to be lined with more money. So, either way,
serve the people, not yourself.
correct. Hopefully we'll move in that direction someday. I'm sure there are lots of comments in chat about this. Did you want to catch up on chat before our next topic?
No, we're good.
All right. Well, if that's the case, then moving on.
Right. I mean, it's, Doug is saying some good things and everything like that, but I think we've covered everything.
Covered it all.
I honestly think that there should be, and this will be the last thing before we move on to the French. I have said when it comes to stuff like electric cars, and it comes to I'll expand that to all cars for the purpose of this conversation. There should be a rule set that governs how the manufacturers build a product. After that, it's on the consumer. So if, let's just say, Nissan revolutionizes their company and they're like, we're making efficient, partial zero emission vehicles, and that becomes the thing they hang their hat on. And more people buy it because of it. That is letting the consumer dictate the market. And guess what? If Nissan starts to get more sales, and this is all an example because Nissan's doomed at this point. They're literally trying to buy time. But for the example, Nissan has this partial zero emissions lineup. People are buying more Nissans, which is taking market share from, say, Honda or Toyota, etc. Now all of a sudden they react by doing the same thing, and the it just, give the people what they want. Make sure they don't get out of hand, right? Because when it comes to car, if you just look at Group B rallying as a perfect example of letting OEMs run wild with a very minimal rule set, and people died, right? Group B was a bit too far. But Group A that followed it still gave the same experience without being as, lethal.
Yeah.
So, but you have some news of, I don't know,
the French variety.
The French.
Your most favorite company ever?
Oh, the most useless company ever.
So, for those that are at least aware of Formula One and global automotive sports cars, we have a company called Alpine, which is I think it's still, is it Stellantis? No,
They're Renault.
It's Renault. I was thinking of Nissan Renault merger, but it's a spinoff from Renault, and
Well,
It's been around for a long time, but they made one car essentially, and they still make one car, but they've been sort of like trying to pump this brand up a little bit on notoriety.
They're the AMG to Renault. They're the
Yeah.
Renault's version of AMG. A performance arm with a less than 2-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder and a mid-engine sports car, and they think people in America will want that.
Well, yeah, exactly. It's a bit absurd. Like people in Europe, sure, they love their lightweight four-banger.
And to try to kill
cars.
a Top Gear presenter too, so
Right, exactly. But what they want to do now is they want to make like SUVs and they want to get into these other car markets, yada yada yada. And I'm just like, you guys are really focused on making better cars first, then do this. But for Motor One, they're basically saying like Alpine now wants to take on Ferrari. Really shooting for the moon here with a 1,000 horsepower hybrid hypercar. Alpine confirmed the car would get a turbocharged V6 and an electric motor for each front wheel, and it'll arrive in 2026. Basically, they revealed their first crossover, which is called the A390. They hinted at something a bit more spectacular, just like it's doing at Le Mans. Alpine wants to challenge the likes of Ferrari with a hybrid supercar. Now, I think even Chad would agree the pictures of this thing are biblically better than the A110, which is the aforementioned lovely little sports car that definitely will not sell at all in America. But it looks pretty freaking cool. It's obviously just a concept at this point, but the design on it is, dare I say,
not what they're making.
Chef's kiss. I was literally going to make that the next point. I was like, the design on this, chef's kiss. Will this ever see the light of day? Hell no. They will never, ever make anything like this.
No. The pictures that Motor One used in the article you sent me are of the Alpine Glow concept.
Yeah, yes.
Biblically stupid name. Mm-hmm. And that the new car that it will quote unquote take on Ferrari is not that. So the car in the pictures is literally, it's a concept that won't see the light of day, but it is also literally not the car that we're talking about.
Yeah.
Like,
which brings it to a completely different point of like, I know you got to put pictures in an article, man, but like, Motor One, what are you doing? It's not what's going to be the concept. It's not the concept of this thing that they're talking about. Why would you put it in there? Either way, the concept they did put in there looks awesome. They should make that.
It looks like they took like a... You know what this looks like? It looks like a slightly worse copy of the old Corvette Daytona prototypes.
Yeah, you're not wrong. That's pretty spot on. You know what it reminds me of for a more recent thing? The Volvo O2 concept. Do you remember that thing, the all electric that had like the deployable drone out the back?
No.
Oh, dude, look that up. It's actually sick.
What's it called?
And I think it's called I think it's Polestar actually. It's Polestar O2 concept, like oxygen, like O2.
God.
But they're actually making it. I think they're making like 500 units of it.
It looks nothing like the Alpine.
No, but just
Alpine.
like the side profile reminded me of that a little bit.
Hold on. Just so we can compare, folks. This side profile reminds Greg of that side profile. This side profile.
It reminded me of it. I didn't say it was exactly the same.
Because they're blue? This looks like the Polestar O2 concept looks like a futuristic version of the current Nissan Z. And if you have the stream up in your web browser, you'd know this, but you don't. So
I don't.
Demerits once again for Gregson.
Well, I have it up in a different tab. I just haven't tabbed over to that. But either way, The whole point I brought up this article is that I'm on your side on this one, Chad. One, Alpine and by extension Renault, what are you thinking? Because you don't even have vehicles at this point. And magically you're like, oh, by the way, we're going to tease you with this 1,000 horsepower hybrid hypercar. Cool. Make 3 cars first. I'll wait. You have one and you just unveiled another that isn't even like close to seeing the light of day. So like I think a WTF is in order. Second, I know you're trying to like get hype around your brand, but this ain't the way to do it, man. Like oh, we're gonna take on Ferrari. And like no, you're not. And not for nothing, there are 24 other companies trying to do the same freaking thing, a dozen of which are just.
I will say this: it's never been easier to take on Ferrari than it is right now.
No, I would agree with that. That's very true. But like, you're pretty far behind the fucking 8 ball, man. Like,
Not really. I mean, Ferrari's using V6s. Renault has V6s. It's same.
yeah, no. In the same sense of the concepts being the same, it's like they both are V6s.
Oh,
And
V6.
that's about it.
A V6. What I'm saying, yes, that was a little tongue in cheek. However, V6, unless it is a Porsche, nobody wants a V6 in their hyper/supercar.
Yeah. In which case, you're not getting a V6 with a Porsche. You're getting an H6.
6-cylinder,
Yeah.
right? Like,
But you're right though.
you know, look,
Yeah. Nobody with that amount of money wants that engine.
question. Is it cool that an auto manufacturer is thinking, hey, we kind of don't have a full lineup. Maybe we should aim high. And maybe they don't make this, but then they make something they're like, hey, people actually like the way this thing looks, as opposed to the A110 or whatever the hell it's called, which looks like a, I don't know, speckled French Kermit the Frog fart. Like, if this design language sort of trickles down, or this idea trickles down into, hey, we don't have to make retro, right? We have the ability to design. I think that's inevitably a good thing. But and here's the thing too. As weird as this is going to sound, it is easy to make a hypercar. From the sense of you don't have constraints on, well, it needs to seat this many people. It doesn't need to be the last thing in luxurious comfort. It has to be a performance thing. Let me put it to you this way, right? What is it? The Factory 5 GTM or something like that? I forget. But they'll sell you a kit car to make a mid-engine sports/supercar depending on the route you go.
Yep.
Factory 5 is not selling you a kit crossover.
Sure.
Right?
That's
Because
a solid point.
right? And again, I'm not saying the engineering involved is easy. What I'm saying is it's a low volume, high performance vehicle. You can make compromises because at the end of the day, these things will hardly ever get tracked, and they are effectively cock extensions for their owners.
Pretty much.
Even the female ones. So, like, part of me's like, yeah, that's kind of a good idea, show off. But, like, at the end of the day, it's like, hey, cool, Alpine makes that car. 3 months later, I'm no longer paying attention to Alpine because they don't make anything relevant to, like, what I like. Or what I can afford, more specifically. Right? Maybe instead of this, you sit here and say, okay, if the A110 is our quote-unquote Cayman/Boxster fighter, which I guess technically in a sort of weird, bizarro way it is, even though it's horrific and slower and French. maybe this next step would be to say, okay, let's ditch that design language. Let's say, hey, people seem to be reacting well to what is effectively something that looks like a street-going Le Mans prototype.
Mm-hmm.
Let's meet somewhere in the middle and have, I don't know, a 911 fighter.
That's not a bad idea.
That is more obtainable. It's not obtainable to a lot of people, but it's more obtainable than like a multi-million-dollar hypercar that only the richest cheese-eating surrender monkeys can afford. And not for nothing, this thing won't even make it to the Nürburgring. It'll drop all of its oil long before it gets there and cower in a corner in fear. But like, maybe that's a route you go, as opposed to like, look.
Oh, but I can hear the marketing people going, "Oh, but we have a 911 fighter. It's the A110." In which case we would respond, "I want whatever you're smoking because that ain't it."
I mean, maybe if the 911 was from, the 70s.
Right, yeah. Maybe if you're talking about the 964 or the 930, sure. Great.
I don't know. Here's the thing. I've tried to be nice, but like, look at all. Here's the thing, right? How many startups have targeted being the fastest thing on four wheels and failed? Right? Like, the only two I could think of that had lasting success in recent history. I'm not talking about your Lambos. Hell, even Ferrari at one point was actually a startup to the established. But Koenigsegg and Pagani.
Mm-hmm. For supercar, hypercar, yeah, those are the two. But just in general, like new car companies. I mean, Rivian also comes to mind, but like even so, there's still so many that are like there's it's so few and far between where they actually when you get to the level, right?
It gets more and more established the higher you go.
Yeah.
Therefore, you have to be something of, quote unquote, an extremist in the car that you present. Why did people want Paganis? Screaming V12.
Mm-hmm.
Why did people want Koenigsegg's? Redonkulous technology, absurd looks, and biblical speed. Right?
Also that value.
And I mean, like Koenigsegg creates buzz without even launching a car.
Correct.
Free valve technology.
Yeah.
What was it? The transmissionless car. I want to say Agera, but I'm for
Regera.
Yeah. Excuse me. Like stuff that makes it interesting. If your goal to beat Ferrari is to come out with a thing that could be classified, like you take all the paint off of it and put a Ferrari badge on it, this thing might be confused for a Ferrari. It's not a bad looking thing. The car we're looking at, which is obviously not the car that they're talking about, but it's what I can see. So this is what I'm going to talk about.
Right.
And you come out with the exact same engine platform, you're never going to gain market share apart from the new factor. And then year after year after year, sales are going to drop. And nobody's going to really care that you came out with 1,000 horsepower, which is complete BS because it won't make 1,000 horsepower all of the time. It'll make 1,000 horsepower when the batteries have juice and you can use the electric motors. Other than that, it's probably going to make 600. Which is why I hate these hypercars. I make a 1,500 horsepower 17% of the time. And I know in the rev range, like you're not making peak power from 0 to a 7,000, 8,000 RPM. I understand that. What I'm saying is that available horsepower. On a ICE car, you can get there always, whenever you want. Might not be a good idea. You might wrap yourself around a tree, whatever, but it's there. In a hybrid, it's like, sorry, no electric juice. So, at any rate, what the boys are saying, Doug goes, I would cry if I got so rich I get anything I wanted and I ended up with a V6 regardless of performance. I mean, there's not many. There are very few exceptions to that V6 rule. Very. if we're talking strictly V6s, the only thing that really pops to mind is the Busso. Those Alfa Romeo V6s.
Yep. That's a solid point. That's a good one.
Porsche as far as six cylinders in general. And then it's like, yeah, there's some good V6 stuff out there, but like, or what have you. Sean goes, Alpine should stick with what they do well, making a lightweight rear-engine sports car that is built by wine-drunk French people in a shed smoking too many cigarettes. I mean, or thought process. You're Alpine, you're sort of new, you're sort of fresh, you harken back to history. There is a lineage to be traced. Maybe you just focus on making a pretty damn good conventional car. A car that fosters enthusiasm without because here's the thing about the A110. It's got carbon fiber anywhere and like a 1.8 liter four-cylinder engine, which has literally excited no one ever. Like, maybe you say, okay, we make a conventionally bodied car that uses whatever engine you have available. I mean, you have access, and then you focus on it making a good noise, looking good, not necessarily in a conventional sense, because you have to have your own identity, but something that isn't trying to force blatantly 60s European design language on a car that is that has to pass modern safety regulations, because those never work unless you basically just hit enhance on the overall size of the car. Why does this keep cutting out?
I don't know. I got cut out again, but it came back. So it's all good.
I don't know what's going on with that. But at any rate, I don't have time to think about it. So like the thing is like, do you want to stand out or do you want to sell cars? You can do both, but like, there's a reason why like the A10 like was talked about and then immediately forgotten. Whereas
that's true.
And I mean, that's a really hard segment to break into because a lot of cars fall into that. But again, keep it simple. Make the car kind of conventional. You know why the Porsche 911 has endured? It's because they kept the recipe the same. They kept things simple. They didn't come out and say the base 911 is an all carbon fiber rear engine. Blah, 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 blah. They used conventional construction methods. And then if you wanted carbon fiber, you moved up the product range.
Yeah, you could add it on.
Another one that falls into this, right? That I immediately thought of. The Alfa Romeo 4C. By all accounts, a very good driving car. You and I have both gotten some pretty significant seat time in one. They are fun as hell. Have you heard much about the 4C lately?
No, because they're horrifically unreliable. They're a four-cylinder sports car with a carbon tub from a company that is not known for reliability. And yada, 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 yada. Hey, look, it's the same story as the A110.
You know.
The same friggin' story.
So, like, I would love, like, Alpine, I think, could even garner more if they said, here's an existing Renault they again become the AMG again. You know, they become the Abarth. They become but I get it. They have to have fast cars in their lineup because they're in Formula One. They're going to stop making Formula One engines. Yeah. They have a car that's racing at Le Mans that Orica built the chassis for. Like, look, if you want to sit here and be your European quirk and do that and sell to those European, fine. But guess where you make money? And I'm not trying to be a dirty American. I'm not trying to be American-centric. But guess what? If you want to make money, make it appealing to the American market. And the A110 is not. And I understand, Sean, it comes from a long line of different cars. The A110 had some varying degrees of success in rallying. There were other models. It doesn't matter. Like, the car came out and it was pig ugly. Or some people liked it. But the people who thought it was ugly or quite not something that didn't really work out, especially in this country. Again, if you want to sell that stuff to your countrymen in France, it's whatever, people buy it. Go nuts. You want to sell stuff here? Again, I'm not saying be conventional. I'm saying add your flair to a car that doesn't look like an upside down bathtub that's been thrown down a flight of stairs. In this instance, we're using a steel bathtub and not a porcelain bathtub because obvious reasons. But it's just, look, I nothing Alpine at all. Like I just completely nothing them. I hate their like the way their F1 team, even when it was Renault, how it was managed. See back even the Fernando Alonso Renault days, Flavio Briatore, and even the Crashgate thing with just Alpine. Just make a car that's fun, fast, and maybe $10,000 cheaper than a 911. And guess what?
Pretty much the formula.
People will take interest, and if it's a good car that performs well, that kind of ticks the enthusiast boxes, notoriety achieved.
What do you think Lotus does? It's literally the Evora / Emira argument. And guess what? It's got a V6 in it, not a 4-banger. And they put a 4-banger in it. And we talked about it last week. They might put a V8 in it because guess what? People want bigger engines in sports cars. Well, again,
I don't know if bigger's
Porsche.
No, exciting engines.
No, right. Exciting engines to go. But even so, like the exact thing you just described, Lotus. And guess what? Lotus sells cars. Not.
Yep.
I mean, there's literally evidence for exactly what you just said. Freaking crazy.
Ugh.
But anyway, to wrap that up, good luck, Alpine. Yeah, I'm rooting for you just to get more enthusiast cars out there, but I don't really hold out much hope.
Yeah. So I'm going to take a quick $5.
Yes. I'll do the same thing after you.
I want to get chat up on screen, so there we go. All right. Nearly there. Jolly good.
Almost. Almost. There we are.
But this kind of off the ball, but I think a good topic for you to discuss, and then I can turn around and talk about it when is you own Gregson Motors.
Mm-hmm.
You're a sports car company. Give me how the Gregson 9000 GTRS-R.
Nice.
If
Good
Greg
nomenclature.
conceive a sports car, engine layout, so front, mid-engine, rear engine, whatever. Engine type, drive, so all-wheel drive, rear-wheel drive, front-wheel drive because it's you.
God, no, I would never do that.
But like, if you were to sit here and start with a template of a sports car, what would yours? And don't worry about like money. So like, but like, you can't sit. But I will put one rule in place. It's like, all right, I'm gonna make a front engine, 2-door, sort of short deck, long hood, sports car in the vein of like your Corvettes, your 240Zs, etc. And I'm gonna drop a Bugatti W16 in it. or some ridiculous. You have to use sort of like.
So it can't be like a dream or outlandish money no object kind of build. It has to be realistic.
It's a car you're gonna sell, and the engine
Right.
can't cost more than like a Porsche 911. No, I'm kidding. But like a basic engine, right? Like
Okay.
so, that is your talking point. Go. Now.
All right. Okay, so Gregson Motors, great company name, by the way. Really good name, Chad. Very strong name. If I'm gonna make a sports car that's gonna sell, in today's world, I mean, I think there's ample evidence for three engines specifically to fit in this car. And we'll go from smallest to largest. I think six cylinder, an eight cylinder, and a 12 cylinder. V10s are dead. They're awesome engines, but I don't think that they would sell as much anymore. I think V12s, V8s, and V6s would probably sell the best. I'm going to remove the V6s from the argument because I think that, again, if there are other options out there that people want, they're going to gravitate to something that's a bit more exciting. V6s are cool. Inline sixes are cool. They're great engines. But again, they're not the most exciting engines. I think probably we can all just collectively agree that some of the most exciting V6s ever made were put into GTRs. And that's probably some of the most peak V6 unassisted engineering over the past 50, 60, 70 years in that realm, right? So that leaves V8s and V12s. V12s are amazing engines. They sound epic, but they are expensive. And most of the time, not all the time, some of them are really good, they're not very reliable and they don't have a lot of practical application to it. On the flip side, V8s aren't as exciting as V12s, in my opinion. People would argue that, but I would say that V8s have way more application to them. You can put them in basically anything. They can be small, they can be big. Like, to me, the V8 is the most utilitarian engine platform ever to exist. In that you can haul with them. They're performance engines. They are widely some of the more reliable, exciting engines. And they just sort of do everything. V6s and inline sixes you can make the same argument for, but I think V8s are more exciting. So that's what Gregson Motors wants to do. So for me, I would do a V8, and I'm probably going to default to like what I would buy here, which is a front engine V8. But I would make a mid-engine V8, and I would make a mid-engine V8 in the sense of, look at what the Corvette has done. We can definitely do that, and we can do it better. So that's my argument. I would say mid-engine V8, excuse me, would be my go-to. My fallback would be a front-engine V8. So I would say mid-engine V8 for performance, for modernization, for excitement. Because look, I'll be 100% honest, and I'm going to take a sip, and then I'm going to make this point. Front-engine V8s are probably what I would buy as a consumer. We know my preferences on this stream and this channel. F-Type R, C6 Corvette, anything front-engine V8, Challenger 392 wide body, those kind of things really excite me. Like, those are cool cars. Mid-engine V8s are just better performing cars overall. Let's be honest. They, look at the Ferrari 458. Look at the Ferrari 488. Look at the CA Corvette. They are better performing cars. They have better weight distribution. You can put a better package in there. I think a mid-engine V8 would be what I would go for. If I'm a sports car manufacturer and I really want to take on the likes of Corvette and Porsche and all this, that, and the other thing, I would say mid-engine V8 would be my thing. I think that is the way to go. If it was just me doing it for what my heart wanted, I would do a front-engine V8. But there's a reason why Corvette went mid-engined. So I'll leave it at that. Let me actually hop on to one quick website And then I can give more answers here. But actually, you know what? No. I will say though that you know what, I'll conclude with one other thing, and then hopefully Chad will be back because I gotta go as well. Family calling. Um, I think if I'm making a sports car first, obviously I'm going to go with a mid-engine V8. I will, however, make one asterisk that if I did go front-engine V8, I could expand my car empire, if you will, to do more things because if I'm engineering for a mid-engine V8, that's sort of the only thing that it could go in currently. If I go front-engine V8, I could put that V8 engine into other things like a V8 wagon, a V8 SUV, and sell more cars. So to me, like I don't know if it's gonna be to sell pure sports cars, and I don't have world domination in mind, I would say mid-engine V8. But if I was going to try to expand the automotive empire, I think front-engine V8 is the way to go. Did you catch any of that whilst you were away?
I don't know. Maybe you should check your DMs.
Oh, sorry, I had our next article up. Nice. That. With that said, I now need to go handle some family business, as well as do the bathroom thing. So I shall return. I said mid-engine V8 as the one I'm going to sell. But if I were to go front-engine V8, you have it in more. You could put it in more applications. That was my argument. Ready to go.
Fair enough. Oofa. So I come up with this kind of thought exercise because I kind of think of it almost an unhealthy amount. On. To me, if I had a company and I was kind of trying to build a sports car, I would personally like to see something in the vein going back to the older Corvettes, your C6, C7. In the sense of it's a lightweight, it's a front mid layout, but it's a front engine sort of American way of doing things, right? Like we've talked about like how the C8 is an amazing piece of engineering. The ZR1 is absolutely insane in what it's capable of. Right? But it's lost some of that it's lost some of that American charm. Right? It's become another flat plane crank in the Z06 and the ZR1. It's become another flat plane crank mid-engine supercar in a sea of flat plane crank mid-engine supercars. What made the Corvette cool in my estimation was the fact that we took what was effectively an ancient design in the form of a pushrod V8, put it in a really good chassis, and then went out and beat all of those other cars. So when it comes to my mind, I would like to do a lightweight or lightish weight. Basically, think something that's anywhere from 5 to 1,000 pounds lighter than a Mustang, right? In that vein, have it be front mid-engine and have one of the thundering American V8s in it, or I know you're all expecting me to sit here and say, put a Coyote in it, put a pissed off, big bore Coyote in it that makes over 600 horsepower and has an 8,000 RPM redline, but still keeps that cross plane crank growl. But there is something hugely tempting about the fact that you can get a 454 cubic inch LS or a 426 cubic inch Hemi, right? And make the same, if not more, power. You put that in a chassis that weighs somewhere in the neighborhood of 3,000 pounds, 3,200 pounds. Have the front of the engine behind the front axle. You know, that long nose, short deck sort of concept. That can go out there and beat the beat the sort of supercar elite. Go out there and have, like, I'm thinking at its tippity top of the range, think of like an American Porsche GT3 RS, right? The GT3 RS does not make an epic amount of horsepower. I think in its hottest trim, it makes like 550 horsepower, somewhere in that neighborhood. So if we can weigh the same, have a chassis that is tuned as well as that, and I know that's no small feat, have that thunderous noise, you know, even if it's one of the pushrod guys with lope at idle, just to be obnoxious and leave no doubt what the country of origin of this car is. And then go out on the track, set a blistering lap time. You know, obviously, not being me, I'd want a manual transmission option, but I'd also want to have, you know, a DCT option just in those situations to where it's the fastest thing. So just for that ultimate bragging right of, like, say, a Nürburgring lap record or whatever. You know, that grabs the headlines. But hey, if you still want engagement, we sell it with a insert stout 6-speed manual gearbox here. I mean, there's just something about that quintessential American soundtrack, which is why, like, Lingenfelter makes a 427 cubic inch version of the LT2 V8 that's in the base Corvette that sounds epic, that can make over 1,000 horsepower. Like, imagine the ZR1's speed and capability with that type of engine and that soundtrack. Because when a Z06 or a ZR1 goes by now, it just sounds like, you know, you hear it go by and you don't instantly think American car. It goes by and you think, oh, that's kind of similar to a Ferrari 458 or a Ferrari with an 8-cylinder or one of the flat plane crank, you know, like the Black Series from Mercedes with the AMG GT. Like, the AMG GT is like, I love those cars because in the cross-plane variants, it sounds incredible. And it's kind of along the same line of what I'm talking about. Long nose, short deck, front mid-engine layout and everything. But it's quintessentially Mercedes. If you could get that American vibe. I don't know what quintessentially makes an American car design language-wise. You know, everybody's going kind of these brash with big wings kind of a thing. But, like, if we could have that, and I think the engine, which is the soul of the car, is a huge deal about that. And, I mean, here's the bottom line. If I offered you a car that, let's just say, let's say in its base form, could match the Carrera and Carrera S from Porsche, and then it had those sort of rungs along the way, and its hottest form matched a Porsche 911 around, say, the Nürburgring. Again, no small feat, but again, aim small, miss small. All right? Like, Porsche is the benchmark for a reason. If that's our goal, if we get 9/10 of the way there, we're going to end up with a phenomenal vehicle. But as an added bonus, when you're driving around, you have that thunderous American soundtrack. And like I said, I love the idea of putting a massive cubic inch engine in that isn't a big block, because we don't want to go massive front end weight, right? Big blocks just weigh a ton. But again, You can get 454 cubic inches out of an LS. You can get 426 cubic inches out of a Gen 3 Hemi. I love the idea of, again, that's sort of the Viper formula. That's sort of the bludgeoning the opposition with cubic inches and not trying to out-tech them. Trying to use every last little trick in the book. And I don't know. I feel like I can make that a reality. Because, like, and again, you go back and you look at the lineage of the greatest American sports cars, or the greatest sports cars that America built that went on to race, that were epic and memorable and legends, right? You look at, say, the original Cobra, right? If the Cobra was just a boosted form of the, what was it, the AC Ace, if it just had a turbocharger on that straight six, is it as much of a legend? No. But they put a 427 in it. And when they reached the aerodynamic limits of that car, they're like, let's just replace the body. So that, and then the Daytona is born. And then you fast forward. You've always had Corvettes. But you fast forward to the mid to late 90s. The original Viper goes racing. And yes, it has a V10, so it doesn't have that quintessential American soundtrack. But there's no denying that it's an 8-liter later, 8.4-liter V10. That was dominant. And in German GT racing, they nerfed it, it won. They nerfed it, it was the fastest car around the track. They nerfed it, they kept nerfing it. They nerfed it to the point where Zaxbyed in Germany decided that, okay, we're just going to plug 2 of the cylinders and have a V8. Like, yes, it was a German team, but that is such an American ideal of like, nah, we'll just play with your rules with what we got. We got this. And the car still set fastest lap at the Nürburgring 24 hours. I forget the year. It's going to take me too long to look it up. But you have that. And then after the original Viper GTSR came out, you had things like the Saleen S7, which again looks like a European car, but is a thunderous cross-plane crank, 427 cubic inch Ford V8 behind it. So there was no mistaking the soundtrack. And around that same time, you had the C5R, which originally came out with, I think, like a 6-liter version of the LS for racing. And when they found out that we don't really need to make a lot of revs and we don't need to make a lot of top-end horsepower, but if we made a shit ton of torque down low and we geared the car properly, we're going to be hyper competitive. And boom, the 427 cubic inch LS is born, which would later become the LS7, and it dominated. That Corvette, those C6Rs that came after the C5s, duff, 6 comes after 5. More you know. Literally killed the GTS/GT1 class at Le Mans and globally because they were so dominant. Aston Martin, like Ferrari with the 575 Maranellos, were dominant in Europe, couldn't touch the Corvettes. Aston Martin comes along with the DB9R, epic sounding V12, great, beautiful car. Managed to beat the Corvette a couple times. And the Corvette just kept winning. And GT1, GTS died because that car was so dominant, even though it only really revved to like 5,000 RPM. You know? So, and then you keep going. Corvettes were the C6R, the C7R, were legends at Le Mans, which is obviously in Europe, in France, because of the soundtrack. Look at the popularity and fanfare that the NASCAR Garage 56 entry got. Largely because of the absurdity of a big-ass NASCAR being faster than the GT machinery there, but it also came with a phenomenally different soundtrack to what the Europeans were used to. Like, let me repeat that. a NASCAR, modified, obviously, but still a NASCAR, was faster than Ferrari GT3 cars, Audi, Mercedes, all these McLaren. Well, I don't know if McLaren raced, but you kind of get the idea. So, because frankly, there's not like the Mustang, and I'm not just saying this because I'm a Mustang fan or whatever, but the Mustang's really the only thing kind of flying the flag for that that quintessentially American race car in GT racing right now. You know, you like Corvette doesn't sound like an American car. And like, I'll even go one further. The Mercedes GT AMG race cars, the GT3 cars, because they don't use the 4-liter twin turbocharged engine, they're still using the 6.2 liter honking. Like, they are immensely popular because of the way they sound. So, because Greg is back, I'll just put a button in my car. It's a front mid-engine car using a big American V8 making 650 horsepower in a lightweight chassis, or as light as you can get that with being safe. Think around the same as a Porsche 911 GT3 RS, but has that sort of American look to it, but more importantly, the sound. It's going to sell. I guarantee it. And Greg
I agree with everything you said.
And there you go. Multi-billion-dollar car company idea. I just need financing.
Yeah, I was just saying. Now, the problem, finding funds to do this.
And some really good engineers. Hey, are any of the front-engine Corvette guys unemployed? If I get the funding.
Probably not. I think they all migrated to the middle.
They're weak. But just to kind of catch up with you dudes, Sean wants a Boxer 8, wants an opposed piston V8. Let's get really funky. And then some more 8-cylinder words. Basically an engine that sounds like sequential artillery fire at idle. I get it. Yeah. I mean, that's what I'm saying with this sports car idea. We pull up the sports car to a car show. We have the plaque that says we did a sub 7-minute lap around the Nürburgring. And then you hear the idle of this lopey American V8. And people are like, I just love the idea of beating Europe with cubic inches.
It sounds pretty awesome.
Cubic inches won World War II, not liters.
I believe they're called. what's the nerd meme? Actually, I believe they're called freedom units.
2-time and defending World War III champion. Hopefully, we don't have to actually defend that.
If we do, we've gone over that on stream. Everyone else is pretty much effed.
I mean, before we get into the last topic of the night, I think our defense spending / output is greater than the next 14 countries combined.
Yeah, it's an insane amount.
We have an A-10 Warthog.
Yes.
It just and most opposing air forces, apart from a couple, you're flying our old shit.
Pretty much.
What is it? We have the first and second largest air forces in the world. We're in the top 2. We almost swept the podium, but stupid army can't get enough helicopters. It's just I thought a whole lot of Fahrenheit 1 World War II from Sean. I mean, let me put it to you this way. Number of countries using inches to make it to the moon. Us. Number of countries using millimeters that made it to the moon. 0.
Yes, accurate.
At any rate,
Yes, so final topic of the night. Good news! Wagon news. The best news. Technically, you are correct. The best kind of correct. So, apparently, well, if you didn't know, BMW makes an M5 wagon now. Not now, but like it's in the US now. Because Audi, in their glorious nature, decided to bring the RS6 here. Good choice. Then BMW was like, maybe we should do that thing. And then they brought the M5 wagon here, and we were all like, good choice. But those are also two cars that are well over $100,000 that mere mortals cannot buy. So, the good news is the demand for those things is still really high because they're cool ass cars. And, as most enthusiasts can attest to, hot wagons are pretty freaking awesome. So much so, in fact, that BMW has had enough demand for the updated M5 wagon, obviously, that's what we're talking about, that it's enough to stoke the conversation of potentially bringing the M3 wagon here, which also is a $100,000 car. But it's not $170,000 because that's what the M5 is. The other awesome thing is the M3 wagon will depreciate like every other luxury vehicle and possibly be attainable for us in short order within the next 5 to 10 years, should they bring it here. So I submit this to you, my good Chadson. Does America need more hot wagons in that sense? One, do we need more hot wagons? And two, is this sort of just like the last death knell of the hot wagon before all wagons sort of go away?
Oh shit, I hit many wrong buttons.
Do you see this as like a hot wagon sort of renaissance?
I don't know if renaissance is the right idea. I think we're seeing what's the word? I don't know if culture shift is the right word either. I just think we're seeing what's old is new again.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's a large segment of people out there, almost the entirety of our chat, who have crossover fatigue, right? So I think, number one, they brought the M5 wagon?
The M5 wagon.
But they brought the M5 wagon over. It's been successful. It's also a ridiculous thing, right? The average person ain't gonna afford it. But this concept of having the utility of a crossover with the sort of road feel, handling, and fun of a sports sedan is appealing to a lot of people, right? And I get that wagon enthusiasm and isn't necessarily, car enthusiasm as a whole isn't necessarily there. But if you could sit here and say, hey, we have this wagon. Here's an idea. You don't even have to sell the performance side of the wagon. If you have, all things being equal, a wagon and a crossover, and you tell them and they have the same engine, transmission, gear ratios, driveline, everything is the same. Guess what the wagon's going to do better? Apart from handle better and stuff, it's going to have a better drag coefficient, which means better MPGs. Right?
Yeah.
Which, the big thing with wagons and hot wagons specifically is, yes, we need more of them because I think they're biblically cool. because recently, like when the Mustang motor popped, I was like, suddenly a wave of like IS300 started showing up on my marketplace feed, and
You're like,
I'm like, you know,
maybe I should get in on that.
they're like $6,000-7,000 for a higher mileage one, but a 1UZ swapped IS300 Sport Cross with the manual box. This is pretty damn tempting.
That sounds epic, quite
You know,
honestly.
it's just look, we all love wagons, and we all want to see more of them. While I'm like, we all know my quote unquote checkered history with BMW, and everything. But let's put it this way: if the M5 and then let's say the M3 Touring comes next, right, and it
Yep.
sells well, we were talking about this before. It's to paraphrase, pundits on ESPN, it's a copycat league. So, Audi brought the RS6 Avant over. BMW's like, that did well. We make something similar. And they brought it over. M3 Touring comes over. Who else is going to look at that? Who else is going to be inspired to make a, sort of affordable version of that car, right? Because let's face it, we can't afford, not all of us, I don't think any of us, can afford, well, maybe Doug can if he puts his car collection as collateral, and $100,000 daily driver, right?
Yeah.
But if, say, it was to sort of trickle down and you suddenly got imagine this, right? Imagine if Lexus made an IS 500 F Performance. Just call it an F. Make it easier for people to say. You'll sell more. I guarantee it. And made a wagon variant of that with the 2UR and that screaming V8 and none of this. Like, the M5 Touring is great and the M3s are great, but they're just so biblically complicated. And let's say that it's going to hit you in the engine notes department. It's going to hit you in the handling department. It may not be as fast as the M3, but it's going to, for the back roads, it's going to tickle every single one of our boxes. Have an epic soundtrack. And let's say they can do it for $65,000-70,000.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, if that's a humanly feasible thing, then it needs to happen now because I feel like that window is closing.
right. Well, here's the thing also, right? I also think, there was a moment where hot hatches were a thing here, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they
Yeah.
came and they went. But again, what's old is new.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things the younger generations, God, I hate saying that, but is sort of retro modern. And I don't mean retro modern from a design perspective, even though that's part of it. But, hey, I've got, wagons used to be cool. They're going to be cool again. We just have to make it so people who aren't, don't have a 3-letter title ahead of their job, CEO, CFO, chief, blah, 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 executive XYZ, names in their title, can actually afford the stuff. Because the biggest problem with, all the, biggest problem with what I think is what killed the hot hatch was they just got way too expensive. Yes, there was an arms race to make the most powerful version. And yeah, the Focus RS was a really cool thing. But when you start looking at a hatchback and thinking XYZ price, it's like, who's the market for it? Your market is priced out of buying one.
Right, and that's the biggest thing. Like, oh yeah, these things are so cool, but like, no one can. The people that want to buy them, they fucking can't.
So it's about, I think honestly, you will start to see a big push for experience because right again, nothing is forever. So this current fascination with mega horsepower, imagine if someone
Yeah.
made a wagon that had the same sort of vibe and design thought as, I don't want to say Miata, but like the Miata, the BRZ, the FRS, right? Not the
Right.
most powerful thing in the world, but offers a great driving experience with a second row of seats that you can fit most humans in.
A human, like a normal human.
I
Yeah.
mean, and a trunk that's 80% of what the crossover they could buy, right?
Yeah.
And you make something that is, again, affordable. Like, yes, I would love to see BMW bring the M3 Touring over here, if for nothing else, that it inspires other manufacturers to do something the same.
Yeah. I mean, I will say that hot wagons have never been priced appropriately in this country, I feel. The car sitting behind me is a great example of that. The 2016, well, 2015 when it came out, 2015.5 to 2016 V60 Pulsar, this car was $62,500 when it came out. You've driven it, you've been in it, I own it. It is not a $62,000 car. Just period. Even when it came out, it wasn't a $62,000 car. It is cool. It sounds great. It has good accoutrements. It is a well-appointed car with nice, comfortable seats. Very reliable. Volvo safety. It's still not a $62,000 car. Quite frankly, neither were the M3s in 2015 and 2016, but they were priced that way. But like, this car behind me is a prime example of exactly what you're talking about. Like, people who want these cars, they cannot buy them off the bat. They just can't. Like, this car behind me that I got it for, I forget what I paid for it. I want to say it was 35. I think it was 35,000. This car at 35,000 is a screaming deal, right? Like, it's a good ass car for 35 grand. Looks cool, sounds great, is a nice car. Like, awesome. Would I take this over a comparable Camry or Accord every single day of the week? Yes. But at 62 grand, no. If they initially priced it at 45 to 50, that is a different story, I feel, because I feel like this car is a $45,000 to $50,000 car when new.
Yeah, I mean, so here's the thing, right? Like, I think if you price it accordingly to what its true competition is, how many performance crossovers do we see, right?
Yeah.
There's a decent amount. I mean, you have like what Ford makes a couple STs, right?
Yeah.
You have certain there's performance crossovers. As much as it pains me to say it, if you make a performance wagon that it costs the same, it's like that is not unheard of. That is not a ridiculous price tag. So, I just think you have to do it in a way, because right now these hot wagons, most people go, wow, it makes how much horsepower? It's how fast? That thing is insane. It costs how much? And then they go back to not caring. Like, it's a cool thing, right? Like,
Yeah.
what's the funniest way I can use to, what's the most colorful, funny analogy I can use to this, right? You go to a strip club.
And demonetized.
Right? Wow, those girls are beautiful. They're hot. Look at all the things they can do. Oh my God, this is amazing. You leave, you go home, And as far as like, I mean, when you're younger, you're dumb, so you think otherwise. But when you get a little older, you go home, you think, oh, that was great. Not even in the wife conversation or the type of like, right? Like, I'm not saying they're not people and they're not good people. I'm not saying that. It's just like one of the things. It's like, when I'm picturing my perfect wife, I'm not exactly picturing.
A stripper.
Well, I'm not picturing other people being able to see the super happy fun time bits. Those are mine.
Yeah.
So, like, it's the same thing. If like you almost get typecast, right? Like fast wagons are getting typecast in a sense that they're out of reach for 99% of the population.
Yeah.
Whereas if like what you're gonna need to see is someone like Ford doesn't make a car, so it's not like they can make a wagon variant of said car. But it's gonna take someone making a wagon that's fun, has enough power to make you feel it, but not so much that the engine has to be completely redesigned and rebuilt and cost skyrocket. You have to make it fun. You have to show it capable of packing all the kids' shit, driving in the snow, because people seem to think you need ground clearance for that. You just need good tires. And, not for nothing, if you think you need not 10 inches of ground clearance for 6 inches of snow, probably shouldn't be driving anyway. Just going to say it.
Accurate.
Or what have you. But you get rid of these myths or misconceptions that people have. Like, imagine, if you will, and I think this is a good place to sort of like end it for the evening. But imagine, if you will, Toyota comes out with they have a hot Camry that makes like a little over 300 horsepower. You can get like TRD styling. Imagine if you made a wagon variant of that's all-wheel drive. Suddenly, that's a cool Camry.
Mm-hmm.
So like,
just look at the what's the Nissan
Ultima?
wagon? No, the
Maxima.
wagon from Japan that you could like GTR swap. The
Oh,
Stagia.
Stagia.
Yeah, the Stagia. Yeah, look at the Nissan Stagia. Like, that's a cool fucking car. It's a cool fucking car, and you know what? It's basically a GTR wagon.
It is. So, I mean, look, at the end of the day, I do think there's a window for wagons to gain market share. I just think it has to be done right, and it has to be done in a way, like, look at the Mustang and the pricing on the Mustang and everything throughout the years, not just now, but throughout the years. They're not inexpensive, but they're at a price point to where someone could say, I can own that one day. You put a performance wagon that makes enough horsepower there, boom, job done. But
yeah,
on that note, seeing as how your picture has frozen and I don't feel like troubleshooting it for the last 12 minutes of the show.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I don't know what I did, but I'm sorry.
It's probably because of your microphone.
Probably.
But we're going to go ahead and wrap for the evening. We will be back next Wednesday. I think I made the schedule. Let me see here. Yes, the 4th, business as usual. We will be back.
Yes.
And look forward to seeing everyone.